Okay, so recently I posted a post and the headline was, high potential is not the same as high performer. And in the talent management space, when we're talking about who's going to backfill somebody, who's going to get promoted into a role, or even who's going to be hired from a pool of candidates from outside of a company, it's really important that managers, leaders, P&L leads, and HR folks keep in mind that high potential and high performer are not the same thing. Often when we're looking at who should fill a role, where we look at their past experiences, and that makes sense. We're looking at their past performance. What have they been able to do? What have they been able to deliver? And in fact, this was something that a client of mine recently discussed with me because they are getting promoted. They needed to backfill themselves, fill a role that they were in, and they had 3 high-performing candidates to choose from, and they simply could not figure out who to choose in a way that was clear and justified or justifiable within the organization. So they needed some rubric or some way to figure this out. And through discussion with them, I realized that this person really was not paying attention to the leadership competencies that they inherently exuded while they were in the role and weren't really thinking about would be needed for the next person to fill that role. And so when you're thinking about a high potential, it's not just the things on paper that they've been able to deliver in the past. That's the performance. It's how they're able to step into a leadership position at the next level. So you're looking at competencies like empathy, resilience, adaptability, the ability to listen to people, the ability to influence. All of those things are not necessarily things that are going to be written on a piece of paper so clearly or shown in numbers of results. It's really the how and the who, right? That's getting to the what, right? And so when you're thinking about that, make sure that you are thinking about those pieces so that you can create a rubric. And when my client did this, we created a rubric. They were able to very clearly rank and rate each of those employees, and then they had a clear winner. And once they had a clear winner, that made it much easier for them to not only decide, but feel comfortable about their decision and be able to back it up with a rating or a ranking that makes sense, that fit with the company's culture and stated values, and something that they could clearly communicate to HR as well as the other leaders and the rest of the organization, and really importantly, the team. So it's very, very important to remember that just because someone has great performance doesn't necessarily mean that they are of high potential for the next role, and vice versa. Just because someone may not be performing the best out of everyone in a current state role doesn't mean that they don't have the potential to step up into the next role. And it always is about investment, where and who you decide to support in terms of those high potentials. I actually don't love the term high potential. Sometimes it can bring in instances of bias and confusion, the way that a lot of times high potentials are designated or decided. But when you have a case where you need to identify high potentials in your organization, make sure that you're understanding it's not just about performance and looking backwards, but about looking forward and how they are going to perform at the next level in a future role.